Hey guys, Endless here, welcome back to the channel. This is part 4 for What If Deku Trained Like Garou. Also check out my other videos in my playlists. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy. Izuku stared at the Nomu with a feral grin. What, you wanted a fight, now you got one. As he said this, Izuku got into a stance. Shigaraki was just laughing like a madman on the side of said creature. Nomu, give him what he wants. After he said this, said creature tried to blitz Izuku. However, the silver red-haired boy growled and roared. That won't work twice. He then launched an attack with a dark purple stream towards the thing's head. But the Nomu had saw this and launched a punch of his own. And when the two blows made contact, boom! After a moment, the two then launched continuous high-speed blows towards each other. As the creature attacked, wind pressure was being generated, and as the silver red-haired boy attacked, a dark purple flow could be seen following his fists. Izuku roared. Whirlwind water stream, cross-fong dragon slayer fist. And after he said this, his blows got more precise and faster. The Nomu was getting overwhelmed and Izuku was landing more and more blows. Now die already. As Izuku said this, he redirected a blow over his head, and launched a roundhouse kick that decapitated the monster. Izuku growled and stared at the Nomu in disgust. He then turned his attention onto Shigaraki and was confused when he had a grin. Wait, why is he grinning? Then he thought back to the other Nomu. His eyes went wide and he jumped away from the body. But as he did, the Nomu grabbed his leg and launched the boy towards a wall. Once Izuku made contact with said wall, there was a boom. As this was happening, Katsuki and Shoto had appeared and launched their attacks towards the monster and Tamura. Said man growled and roared. Kill them, Nomu. After he said this, said creature disappeared and reappeared in front of Katsuki. Said boy's eyes went wide and he launched an explosion beneath him. However, as the blonde did so, said punch was a centimeter away from his face. But before the attack could connect, Izuku appeared and caught the punch by the thing's arm. And said coldly, your fight is with me. But the impact from the blow had still made contact and there was another boom. Izuku growled after he saw this and shoved the Nomu back. The now red-haired boy looked towards Todoroki and shouted, as Vice Rep, I order you to help the others to escape. After the half and half had heard this, he gave a sharp glance to Izuku and nodded slowly. However, as he looked away from Tamura, said man had appeared in front of him and launched a kick. Just as he launched said kick, Izuku had appeared by his side and roared. Water stream, rock smashing fist. Tamura's eyes went wide and got hit on his face. As the villain leader flew back, Izuku cracked his neck and grinned. This is what you wanted, right? A monster. Todoroki then ran over to Aizawa and said over his shoulder, I will join you after I am done. However, Izuku just shouted back while dodging the Nomu. Nah, I have all my backup right here. As he said this, Katsuki roared. Howitzer impact. Izuku had jumped over the blonde and launched his own attack towards the monster. Exploding heart release fist. The red-haired boy's attack empowered the explosions and there was a massive boom. The combined attack launched the Nomu towards the edge of the USJ and made a massive crater. Izuku landed next to the blonde and said boy spoke up. What's with the hair now? The red-haired boy glanced at him and shrugged. I think my blood got rooted into my hair. Katsuki just stared at him dumbfounded. How are you even alive? He asked bluntly. Izuku grinned and shouted. That doesn't matter, all we need to do is win. As he said this, the red-haired boy dashed towards Tamura and launched a high kick towards the villain. How dare you try and make me change my path? Said man dodged the kick and was about to reply. But that's when Izuku cut him off with a punch to the side of his face. Shut up. He then continued as he launched blows with blue streams towards the villain. You're going to have to try harder than that to break my will, scum. Izuku then roared. Whirlwind Water Stream, Crossfang Dragon Slayer Fist. As his attack was about to land, a portal had appeared in front of Tamura's face. And another popped up by Izuku's side. Shit. The blow landed and sent the boy flying to the ground with a boom. After Tamura had caught his breath, he started to laugh. You went for the kill there, brat, not very heroic. He huffed and Shigaraki stood up straight. And as he did so, Tamura grinned. Break your will? He asked mockingly. I'm not the one who killed your friend over there. Katsuki stared at Izuku in shock after he heard this. Wait, he killed someone? He then glanced at the dead Nomu, and froze once he saw the enlarged fingers. I only knew one person with a quirk like that. He was about to shout towards the red head, but said boy roared. I told you, that thing wasn't my friend, it got turned into a mindless monster like the one we are fighting. As he said this, the Nomu appeared in front of Izuku and said boy ducked under it and launched a kick towards the thing's chin, which sent the Nomu towards Tamura with a thud. He then stood up straight and growled. Now are you going to help me or fight me? Katsuki was staring at his fists and clenched it. He is right, that thing we were just fighting isn't human anymore, but Kogo then had a tear fall down from his eye. Don't worry, I will tell your family of your passing. You fight Tamura, the Nomu is mine. Izuku's voice brought Bakugo out of his thoughts. After the red head had said this, he dashed towards said creature, and got locked into a high-speed fight once again. The blonde just gritted his teeth and roared. Don't give me orders. As he said this, Katsuki had launched himself towards Tamura and Kurogiri. Back with Izuku. He dodged a blow that would have hit his face and launched a counter-punch in retaliation. Slam. Izuku grinned at the now indented beak of the Nomu. Ha, I guess now you can't screech like how you did before. However, said creature just regenerated and screeched towards the red head. After it did so, it launched multiple blows towards the boy. Oi, I was just joking. He then dodged and redirected some of the blows, then started his counterattack. Whirlwind, Iron Cutting Fist. Izuku launched his punch towards its center and grinned when it got cut into 3 different pieces. As this was happening, Shoto had indeed came back after he opened the door of the USJ with his ice. The red-haired boy stretched and stared at the boy. What he is going to regenerate might as well be ready. As if to confirm what he had stated, the thing started to piece itself together. Izuku frowned and spoke towards Shoto. Go help the blonde idiot, I got this one. Todoroki looked over towards Bakugo and saw that he was getting overwhelmed. All right. After he said this, Shoto stomped his foot onto the ground and launched a massive ice attack that separated the 2 parties. Katsuki roared towards Shoto. Oi, I don't need your help. Todoroki ran over and replied. It looks like you did. After he said this, a portal appeared below him and said boy jumped back and kicked the hand away. The blonde shouted angrily. I'll blast you away. Todoroki was now standing next to the blonde and spoke calmly. Can you do that after we deal with these 2? The blonde just huffed and launched himself towards Tamura. Izuku stared intently at the Nomu and grinned when it was done healing. Said beast roared towards him and Izuku jumped away. The Nomu followed after him at insane speeds. The red-haired boy noticed the villains from earlier were regaining consciousness. Oh no, you guys don't. He launched an attack towards the ground with a roar. Whirlwind, Iron Cutting Fist. After the blow connected with said ground, there was another. Boom. Said attack shattered the ground and had caused a massive crater that has 3 separate areas. All of the villains fell into said crater and landed onto the ground with a thud. However, Izuku froze once one of the villains' neck had snapped. Wait, am I just becoming a killer? As he thought this, Izuku stared at his fist intently. Why don't I feel remorse? I know I halted my attack for my friend, but after I realized he had died. I instinctively went for the kill. As the red-haired boy was in his thoughts, the Nomu appeared at his side and launched said boy towards the ground with a boom. Izuku growled and roared. Can you not attack me for a second? He then launched a kick towards the Nomu that had a dark purple stream following after it. Said creature put his guard up and the blow had launched it towards the edge of the crater towards one of the unconscious villain. Izuku winced when the creature smashed into said villain by the impact. Why? The silver-haired boy gritted his teeth and pulled at his hair. I want to become a hero, not a killer. However, his anger rose when the Nomu started walking towards him while not caring about the villains beneath him. This thing is really pissing me off. After Izuku thought this, he dashed towards the Nomu with a dark purple trail. Said creature noticed this and launched himself towards Izuku, all the while readying a punch. But before it can launch it, Izuku appeared beneath it and launched a kick towards the thing's legs. His attack connected and made the Nomu fall forward. Izuku grinned and roared. Exploding heart release fist. The blow connected with the monster's chest and caused another shockwave. Boom. The red-haired boy had punched the Nomu towards the air outside of the crater. He then jumped out of said crater. The Nomu landed onto the ground with a thud. Izuku casually walked over to the beast and growled. This has went on for long enough. As the redhead said this, Izuku launched a blow through the thing's head and sent it towards the ground. Boom. Said ground cracked again and Izuku didn't stop. If you are going to keep regenerating, then I will keep attacking. He then launched blows with a purple stream towards the Nomu, in which a pool of blood was slowly growing larger under it. He was about to launch another blow, but that's when All Might appeared and shouted, "That's enough, young Midoriya." The number 1 hero then launched a punch towards Izuku, all the while shouting, "Detroit Smash." The red-haired boy's eyes went wide and he jumped back. The attack hit the ground and coincidentally destroyed the rest of the Nomu with a boom. All Might paled and muttered, "Oops." Izuku growled and stood up straight. "Is this what I get for protecting my classmates?" he roared angrily. The redhead was now having doubts about the heroes. After all, the number 1 hero just attacked him without asking any questions. However, All Might retorted angrily, "Heroes don't kill." Izuku just laughed while moving one of his hands above his face. "Didn't you just kill, you hypocrite?" He then continued, "Did you ever think that sometimes killing might be necessary? Take that Nomu for example, it kept regenerating and coming back, so I had to launch continuous blows to make it stop." All Might frowned once he heard this and he looked back towards said creature. "That thing doesn't look human." However, Izuku's voice brought him out of his thoughts. "Maybe he was right, you guys don't trust me." He roared angrily. Just as he did, a pink mist had enveloped Izuku. Said boy narrowed his eyes and jumped back, all the while launching a blow towards the ground. Whirlwind, Iron Cutting Fist. The blow connected and caused another boom. As he landed, Nizu's voice could be heard. "Izuku Midoriya, calm down." Said boy shouted angrily. "I'm not the one that's attacking you guys here." He then continued while getting into a stance. "If you guys want to continue attacking me, then I will defend myself." A dark purple aura then appeared around his fist, but just as it did, something crashed into his back and Izuku froze. He recognized her scent. Mina then shouted with tears falling down from her cheek, "Just stop, the fighting is over." Izuku moved his fists down after he heard this. The redhead then looked over towards the crater he had made, and saw that it was now full of blood and rocks were now above it. Izuku thought back to when he tried to disperse the mist and had launched the attack towards the ground. His eyes went wide and he muttered, No, I didn't mean to." Nizu then glanced towards All Might and nodded. Said number 1 hero grabbed some cuffs from an officer and spoke, "Izuku Midoriya, you will have to go to trial for your crimes." He then continued in a serious tone. Sure, the monster over there was already dead, but you just killed over 100 people. Now will you come quietly, or will force have to be involved? The redhead just got more angry at this. That wouldn't have happened if they didn't attack me first. He gritted his teeth and noticed all of the pro heroes at the top of the staircase tense. Izuku growled and sighed. He then moved his hands in front of him and All Might let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. The number 1 hero then cuffed Izuku and walked him over towards the officers. Don't worry, young man, I will make sure that I get you out as fast as I can. Izuku halted for a moment and stared back towards All Might with rage. Don't bother. He then followed the officer into the back of the police car, and the red-haired boy stared at his classmates and noted their reactions. Bakugo looked like he was about to fight all of the pro heroes, and Mina was still sobbing. Said Blonde roared angrily. If he didn't defeat the Nomu, we all would have died. However, as he said this, Todoroki tried to stop him from saying anything more. But as Katsuki was about to use his quirk, Midnight activated her quirk and knocked out the 2 boys. Izuku just sighed and shook his head. Seriously, what did he hope to gain from yelling like that? As he thought this, the car took off towards the police station. However, in Kamino Ward same time, Tamura appeared within the bar and he grinned darkly. Master, he is getting arrested right now. After he said this, the screen on the TV in the bar turned on and the man's voice could be heard. Well, the heroes are more dumb than what I thought. As All for One said this, he looked over towards an unconscious Inko at his side. Then we didn't need to get her. But then he started to laugh after a moment. I know how to get him to join, he said with a dark chuckle. Tamura raised an eyebrow and asked, and how will you do that? Oh right, All for One then turned the screen to video and showed him the unconscious form of his mother. I had someone get her for me in order to, let's say, motivate him to change his mind. He then continued, all the while a dark substance appeared behind him. Though this situation is much better. And with that, the symbol of evil disappeared into his portal. Tamura just hummed in thought. He was able to overpower Nomu and take out all of those low-level thugs I brought. 2 minutes later, Izuku stared out of the window and thought. So they don't trust me. He then stared at his cuffs and muttered. I can just easily escape out of these. However, the officer spoke. Try it and I will use force. The red-haired boy grinned and laughed. And what will you be able to do? As he said this, Izuku noticed the portal that appeared in front of the car. His eyes went wide and he quickly broke out of the cuffs and dashed out of said car through the window. As Izuku did this, the police car crashed into the man with a boom. Izuku stood up straight and cracked his neck. But as he did, the other police cars that were with them stopped and cops pointed their weapons at Izuku. Said boy raised an eyebrow and shouted. I'm not the one that did that. After he said this, the officers were just confused and a detective spoke up. Then who did? However, as he said this, tendrils appeared from the smoke and pierced most of the officers. Detective Tsukachi was able to dodge but got sent back into the side of a building with a thud. As this was happening, Izuku wondered who this man in the suit was. He tensed when the man looked at him and started to chuckle. Don't worry boy, I am not going to attack you. Izuku growled and a purple trail appeared around his fists. Then what do you want with me? Let me atone for what I have done. The man just laughed at this. You see, Izuku Midoriya, what will I have to gain to have you in prison? He then continued. I would have just broke you out either way, though I know you can probably do that yourself. Izuku looked at his fist and then back at the man while getting into a stance. I won't let you do as you please with me, he growled. Oh, but what would your mother think about that? The red-haired boy froze after he heard this. What do you know about my mother, if you did anything to her? He then dashed towards the man and launched a blow towards All for One. Said villain dodged the blow and spoke. I know that she is Inko Midoriya and she is now in my care. Izuku growled and roared. What does she have to do with me? Leave her out of this. Because I know she is your weakness. He retorted mockingly. The red-haired boy froze at this and thought. If he actually has her, then if I attack him anymore, then she will be used as leverage. He gritted his teeth and growled. What are your demands? All for One just chuckled at this and a portal appeared behind him. Follow me and I will tell you in a more private setting. Izuku halted for a moment and spoke in a cold tone. If you kill her, I will have your head. Now I won't kill her, don't worry, I will even make sure she eats daily. The red-haired boy was about to enter within the portal, however. Detroit Smash. All for One caught the punch and grinned. All Might, I'm sorry, but I don't have time for you right now. Said Hero roared. All for One. But just as he did, said villain launched All Might away with a tentacle. He then turned towards Izuku and spoke. Now let's go. Izuku stared at the crater on the side of a building and a single tear fell down from his eye. He then followed after the man into the portal. But that is the end of this part. If you enjoyed this part, leave a like and subscribe. Also tell me in the comments on how this part had came out.